Hi everyone, welcome to the weekly Unreal Engine 4 live stream. I'm Dana Cowley, and here with me this week is Short de Jong, who you may also know as Hourences, and Chance Ivy.
Howdy.
All right, we are thrilled to have you all here. We're going to walk through a lot of what Short has been working on today, and we're also going to give you some really cool background that you may not know on him. I'm going to lead off with our news items just to start with, so you know all the things that are happening in Unreal Engine land these days. Last week we launched Marketplace. It's officially open for business. You can buy and sell things, and we also made Unreal Engine 4 free for academic use. So if you're an educator and you want to get your hands on Unreal Engine 4, go to unrealengine.com/education. In fact, we covered off on a lot of this on last week's live stream, so you can go to our YouTube channel and get all the details there. In other news, you may have seen the Apple special event yesterday. We saw lots of pretty new phones and the Apple Watch being announced. Yeah. But what's one thing that's really important to us is the launch of iOS 8, which includes the Metal API. You know, we've had Metal API support out in the wild for a while now. But now that it's released to everyone, we are submitting Zen Garden to Apple for certification. In fact, we just submitted it yesterday, and as soon as that's through, we're going to release it as a free app on the App Store, and we're also going to release the content to you guys through Unreal Engine Marketplace. We also shipped the 4.4.2 hotfix, and that includes a few fixes for various things, as well as new Oculus Rift support for the vehicle sample games. We have an announcement thread about that up on our forums, which you can check out. And then finally, yesterday, we shipped 14 new asset packs in Unreal Engine Marketplace. Woo! Big thanks to Adia Entertainment, Bitgem 3D, EvilMind, Infenzia, Manufactura, K4, and Protofactor. At the time, we did not have a lot of images up on the blog post, so I'm going to have Chance scroll through some of those right now. Jason, we can cut to the TV. Just to give you a preview of what you can find in the marketplace. These are Adia's military characters. Keep going. And the weapons pack.
I like how the ammunition is right below it on each of these little stands. It's pretty great.
What does it take to get a job as a bullet designer?
Yeah, I don't know.
These are Bitgem 3D's texture packs.
Yeah, full materials with all kinds of fun stuff on them.
Yep. And the zombie pack, also from Bitgem 3D. So here are
That's
those
attractive.
Well, we also have lots of audio packs. We have an Asian audio bundle from EvilMind.
Yeah, audio is the best to look at.
Yeah, right. These are some of EvilMind slides just about their assets in general. The last pack from those that I have an image for is the puzzle audio bundle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And there's Infenzia. They released a ton of audio content.
Battlezone,
Energetic beats. Scary.
Soft pads, yeah. Lots of stuff from these guys.
Yeah.
And we got... Okay,
and then
great.
finally, Protofactor. They released a bunch of sci-fi creatures, which you can see here, and sci-fi robots. So we have a full blog post on everything that was released up on unrealengine.com/blog. You can go and check that out. But these are the images for those who are wondering. All right, last bit of news for me. EGX London, we are going to be there at the end of the month, and we have selected the 8 indie games that will be on the Unreal Engine stand. So you can go, if you go to unrealengine.com/news, you can see the full announcement for that. But Red Out is a racing game from 34 Big Things. We've got links there for lots of videos and images for all these games. Eclipse, that was the game coming out of the Game Jam from Falmouth University, which is the startup program there is called Alacrity Falmouth. So Eclipse will be on the stand, Ether 1 from White Paper Games, Seek from 5 Pixels, Numa Breath of Life from Deco Digital, Congo from the Innocent Devils, Tiki Galore from Abyss Studios, and Pool Nation FX from Cherry Pot Games.
Cool.
And we will be bringing you video coverage from EGX, interviews, all that kind of good stuff. All right.
Sounds good.
Moving on to the community spotlight. Take it away, Chance.
Yeah, so this week we've got some really cool stuff in here. This is Central Station by Guillermo Moreno. Let's see if we can get this guy running up in here. Jason, is it okay to full screen? Great. So it's kind of a longer one. I'm going to hop to some of the hotter spots in it. He's talking about how it's influenced by Destiny and Mass Effect, Killzone, some of the things like that. I like the whole Xbox PlayStation thing here in the middle of this courtyard, but really cool material uses on some of these like glass panes, and just good looking overall.
The Xbox and PlayStation ones, it reminds me of E3 when the two face each other.
Yeah, they did. I remember right when they announced the new consoles, and they did that last year, and then this year is the same thing, right next to each other again. It's just really, really cool. And I'll hop on to
Very pretty.
Another really cool spot up here. It goes through the little outdoor diner thing. Yeah. And then we've got, let's see, and not that guy, more architectural visualizations. We probably have just tons of this kind of stuff coming in. It's just people are using the engine for this. The lighting, softness, everything's awesome. This is Alexis DeBoscher from a studio called Boko Studio. They're actually an architectural visualization studio. They do this kind of work. It's really cool to see them using the engine. It's really, really great. Really just really great visualization. Don't really know what else to say about it. I mean, he's posted this up in the forums, and kind of going through specific things, talking about how he's built it. So
yeah, great job, Alexis.
Yeah. And then we've got Silly Soccer, which is this little interesting little guy here, and this guy behind him. Looks so far right now, the gameplay is more of a physics sandbox, but I don't know. I just thought this was hilarious when I first saw it, and see this little guy kick the ball around, and he's got a.
I like the flaming.
Oh, it's
flaming
incredible.
trails behind the ball.
It's great because you can kick each other, pick each other up. He's got like here in a minute. Let's see if we can find it. Yeah, he's holding this flag, and it says
I think the way he runs is my favorite part of all of it.
No, it's just some great stuff. And later here's got some of the AI stuff where they've got a whole team running around, and so it's pretty neat. I saw this show up and I was like, okay, this is what Unreal was built for right here. It's so awesome. So this is a user Pampers.
Pampers?
Yeah.
Thanks, Pampers.
Yeah, it's good
we
stuff.
think your game's really cute.
Yeah, and this one's also, I'll have the forum post on the recap after this too. You can kind of follow along with his development. There's a couple other videos and updates on that. And then this one is a game called Deadhold, which I've been watching for a little bit.
Yeah,
Richard Cowgill. Yeah, I really like that he's got this multiplayer. Earlier this week, he put this multiplayer playtest in where he's actually got two teams going against each other, and it's like full-on strategy combat, RTS type stuff. It's really cool to see this gameplay come from when he was first showing some of the movement, and now he's got his giant in there just smacking people. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, they've been great about sharing their work.
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I love it when people can do that. Like, hey, I'm making this really cool game, and here's kind of how I'm doing it, right? Like, go piece by piece. So that's what we've got. I think there's one more. Yeah, it's just a lot of death here later in it, but it's cool to see that he's still using Blue Guy, which I think is awesome. I'm a big Blue Guy fan. So cool. That's what we've got today.
Nice.
So with all of that, I will turn it over to
me,
the star of our show today.
Well, I would first of all like to thank Epic for getting me here. It's much appreciated.
Our pleasure.
It's really
about
cool.
time, right?
Yeah, it's about 15 years
Yeah.
late. Yeah. I mean, it's good. But I mean, better late than never. So
Yeah.
yeah. And it's really
Thanks
nice
for
just seeing everything here, meeting everyone finally. Yeah, it's really nice. So right. Let's see. We should probably start with
from the beginning.
where I started. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
What inspired you to start making games?
It was actually by accident, I would say. I mean, I like games, of course. Like most game developers, you like making games, right? And so I was like 15 at the time, and for some reason I got this ad, like a commercial ad, right? And in the commercial ad, it had an advertisement for Unreal 1, right? So, and it was discounted, right? So I said, I need to have that game. I don't know why I wanted to have that game, because I knew nothing about Unreal. I knew nothing about computers or games either. I just got my first computer. I got this magazine that says Unreal, discounted. I thought, I need to get that. So I got on my bike as a 15-year-old. I drove to a nearby town. Took me an hour bike ride to get there. I arrived there literally 5 minutes before closing time, like for real. And I got the game. I went home, and I was instantly really inspired by just the mood, the atmosphere, the colors, everything. You know, this is awesome. And then I found Unreal.exe in there.
The editor.
Right. So I started that, and there was no internet back then. I mean, I didn't have internet at least. It was 1999, I think, or so. There was no tutorials, nothing. So I found this text file, like a README text file from Cliff Bleszinski. So I started reading that, but I couldn't really do English very well either. So it was really hard to like read it and get the idea. So I kind of struggled through, and I pretty much learned the editor by just trial and error. I just clicked on everything for months until I found a pattern. That's how I learned Unreal. I actually worked with Unreal, the Unreal editor, before I ever sent a single email. For real.
Really?
Yeah, really. I've never used email or anything before I used Unreal editor.
So you've been doing Unreal longer than you've been communicating online?
Yes, basically.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, and by pure just sticking to it, I just learned the editor, just clicking everywhere, and then you find, you see patterns, and you're like, if I click here, and then I click there, and then I do this, then eventually I get a cube.
Yeah.
You know? So I just learned it like that. And then at one point or another, I did get internet. And also, I found some tutorials in some magazines. Like, you could buy magazines still, and some game magazines, right? And one of them at one point came with like 4 pages of tutorial. And suddenly the whole world opened up for me, because, oh my God, you can do this and you can do that. That was awesome. And then I got internet. And then I found out, there's a lot more people doing this. So that was great. Yeah. I got into the level design community, the Unreal level design community, in like, I think, the year 2000. And by the year 2001, I had made like, I don't know how many levels I made by that point, 30, 40, 50 Unreal levels or so. Most of them really bad. Most of them bad, really. But then my levels they got better and better, and you reached a point where people started saying, this is really fun. Like, you started getting this following of people who really liked your levels. And that was a game changer, pretty much.
And you're still a teenager when all this is happening.
Yeah, I was still only 16, 17 at that point. Yeah,
crazy.
So it was really crazy. And then because of that, because I was in the Unreal community, so you get to know people. I mean, you build up this group of friends in the community. And they all started getting jobs and such, right? So a couple of them got hired here by Epic. And a couple of the other ones, at one point we said, let's make a map pack together. So let's just make some that much levels. And then one of our guys, emailed Cliff Bleszinski, and he said, if we're going to make this map pack, can you make it official? Like, do you want to put like an official stamp on it and support us a bit, right? And Cliff said, yeah, sure, we can do that. I mean, it's fine. Just make the levels first, and we'll see what happens, basically. And we made those levels, and then Epic got back to us and said, why don't we put these in Unreal Tournament 2004, and we take it from there, right? And that was basically my first job. That's how I started in the industry, because then I got into Epic. Yeah. And I started making levels, and then I made Torlan, I made Rankin, I made Idoma, I made Dawn. I can't even remember my own levels. Dria, that was still the name that it has, and so on.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. So, I mean, the Unreal community really started my career, like, 14 years ago, 13 years, 15, whatever, 2002, 2003.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible because, I mean, we've seen a lot of students and student teams build their careers on Unreal, but, I mean, you were really, like, the pioneer of that sort of movement, and then, because it's not like you even just stopped there, because I know when I came on and was running, like, the Make Something Unreal contest in like 2008, through 2010, the ball was awesome. And, won multiple awards. And then when we released UDK in 2009, like your team was one of the first to port over to UDK so you could have a standalone release. And you shipped that. And then Unmechanical came along and you had like multiple ship games.
Yeah.
Not to mention like all the other stuff that you were working on the side.
Yeah.
And like teaching people how to use the engine.
Yeah.
Which is also, So why don't you tell people a little bit about like the training resources that you developed as well so they understand.
Right, yeah. So in 2002 already, I started writing tutorials.
Right.
Right.
Because you realize how momentous that is, like when you have something to learn from, right?
Yeah, and you saw that people liked your level, so you got up to a point where I want to explain why, what I did in my level and how I did it, because people seem interested in that. So we went from that to starting building websites, and then the website wasn't good enough, so I made website 2 and 3 and 4. I mean, I took it in steps, and you learn in the process, like, what are people looking for, how should I present it, and I took it like that. So by the time we reached Unreal Engine 3, when that started to launch, I realized I should probably step it up a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
So I got access to Unreal Engine 3 long before public release as well. I started learning that as well. I started looking through your documentation. I mean, I started getting into it. And then at one point I realized, I want to provide more than there is out there right now. I want to give my own take on the tutorials. So I started writing tutorials. And it wasn't really meant to grow out of hands as much as maybe it has. I mean, I just started writing tutorials.
Yeah.
And people really liked it. So I think over the years, since like 2005 or 2006, I've had 5 million visits to my text tutorials, just the text tutorials alone.
Wow.
So it kind of stacks up, yeah. So I don't know why, actually.
Well, I mean, when you have an expert in the community and you can, and because you've, like even with Unreal Engine 4, I mean, with Blueprints, you were one of the first people doing like really cool stuff with them, right? I mean, when we were still scratching the surface ourselves, you were building Solus project and you were in the beta.
But I mean, I've gone through 4 generations now, right?
Yeah.
So I learned from the previous few times, like what happens when Epic goes through an engine change? How does the community respond to it? What should I do? So I learned from that. And by the time you went to Unreal Engine 4, I already went through 2 engine changes, Unreal Engine 1 to 2 and 2 to 3.
And you're already familiar with all the, what we call the Unreal isms and the Unreal way of doing things.
Yeah, I have the background in there, So I also learned quite fast on how you guys made it, basically. Because I am from the same background, so I can kind of tap into that same approach and idea.
Yeah.
So it's kind of easy for me to get into it, I feel. Like when I started with Unreal Engine 4, there wasn't really any real documentation available on your site. So I pretty much learned Unreal Engine 4 as well by just clicking around. Same for Blueprint. I haven't read any Blueprint tutorials anywhere except the very first one you put up privately at some point. Like there was an animated door. So I did this animated door tutorial.
Yeah.
That's the only Blueprint tutorial I've ever done. So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. I mean, what I do usually is really trial and error. I just click everything and I just see what happens. And it takes a lot of time to do that. I mean, that really costs time. It's not very efficient in the beginning, but later on, I think you get the payback because you understand it better in long term doing that because you really tried every potential possibility. Right. But I mean, to go back to my history, because then I started working for you in 2003 or so. I worked for you guys for 9-10 months, whatever. I made it to demo levels for Unreal Tournament 2004, and then it really, it just took off. My career took off. And at that point, I was 19. So at the age of 19, I started working for Guerrilla Games.
Yeah, Guerrilla. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wasn't Unreal, of course, but it was my first like real on-location job. Big company. Was 19. Was kind of a thing as well. Worked for them for a year. Then I worked for like the Chronicles of Spellborn, Unreal Engine 2, MMORPG in Unreal Engine 2, and it was something. I mean, I did a lot of contract work. It got such a long list by now. So many different companies. I think it's like 15 or 16 different Unreal Engine licensees or so I worked for in the years. And I don't know. I can't even keep track. And there's so many other things I've done, like mods and map packs and everything else. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, we, not to be too self-promotional, but it's like with Unreal, if you have Unreal Engine skills, you can get a job.
Absolutely,
there's always headcount open for Unreal Engine.
I mean, in the 15 years I've been doing this, I've seen so many people come and go in the community, and a lot of them just get hired into companies indeed.
Yeah.
It's very, very common. Even Epic here especially. There's a lot of people here I know from Epic that got hired into the community. A lot of people I've even seen come through the community while I was in there, and you can just, So So definitely.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you're like, I want to talk to these people while I'm here. They're people I've known for like 20 years, but I've never actually met them.
No.
You know, it's
I
really
know.
cool.
And I can pretty much tell when your employees actually started working here.
Yeah.
The old guys, at least. I can pretty
Yeah.
much say, this guy started here in 1998. This guy in 2004.
Yeah.
This was your first level you did here. So, yeah.
Very cool.
I overdid it, maybe.
Just real quick, a lot of the chat stream, your tutorials helped a lot of people, it seems. So there's a lot of thank yous.
I'm very happy that
thank
it
yous in
worked
here.
out, yeah.
Yeah. Myself included,
Yeah.
by the way. I learned a lot from
Good.
you back in the UT3 days. So
Good.
it's good stuff.
I wish I could do a lot more. I mean, some of the questions that were asked also earlier, like, will you do more video tutorials and such? I would really love to. I would love to convert, for example, my expert videos, expert classes that I did for UDK. But it's really a time thing. The same goes for the text tutorials and all that. I mean, I have so many more ideas of what I could do or how I could like shape the tutorials or how I could present or anything like that, but time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would like 36-hour days. That would
Yeah.
be nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. We were talking earlier, and he's like, yeah, I just like to do everything. I like to make games. I like to work for other game companies. I like to do tutorials, and I like to tinker, and I like to make mods. So I just want to do it all, but
Yeah.
I just need more time.
I don't want to pick one thing. It's too
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
It should be more than that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, now I'm working on Solus.
Yeah. So let's give everybody a little primer on Solus
Yeah,
and
I'm
what
gonna
it is
get you
and,
set up real quick.
Right.
and how
Actually,
you built it.
I'm just gonna close some of this out for you.
you could actually open the game website if you want, briefly.
Your website?
Yeah, the games website actually. Just bring that one up.
Okay.
All right. Great. Cool.
Or you can
Cut
bring
over
that
to
up
the
first.
TV. Yeah. Thanks,
Let's see,
Jason.
where are we going? Is it here?
Hold on.
Yeah, I was gonna hop over to.
You can show the main site first for people.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Right. Actually, yeah. Before we look at the game, this is my website for people not aware of it. So I have Hourences.com. I've had it for years, and this is basically what I'm doing. You know, so you can just follow along what I'm doing, and I have my videos and tutorials and games and stuff I'm doing. So you can look through that. But regarding Solus, so we had actually I can just click there indeed. Can I? I'll just do this. Right, so Solus is a game I started in July 1 actually, last year. So I'm now a little bit over a year in production. It's Unreal Engine 4, of course. I started working on this during the closed beta of Unreal Engine 4. And it's a survival game. It's a first-person survival game. It's very art-driven. It's very about the look of the planet, you know, the atmosphere, walking around. It's actually very much so inspired by Unreal 1. A lot of things I do are very inspired by Unreal 1. I mean, that's what started my career. That's really what shaped my vision, basically, on levels and environments and games and all that. I mean, I kind of want to go for the same kind of colors and same kind of vibe as the first proper game I played. So you can look through the website. I mean, you can look at the trailer and all that.
It's just solusthegame.com.
Yeah, just solusthegame.com and see what it's about. But it's a survival game. Been working on this for a year. We now have 8 people about working on it, so the team is growing quite a bit. And we're hoping to have the first 2 hours of gameplay done by January, February, March, somewhere in the beginning of the next year. And the total length of the game would be nice if it's around 3 or 4 hours. We don't want to make it too big. It's going to be hard to manage for a small team like ours. So we just want to do a quite small, focused, pretty, and fun game, basically. It's all about the atmosphere, yeah.
It's looking pretty.
Yeah, it's working out. I'm happy with it. A lot of work went into it, of course, next to everything else I do, so it's quite hard also to combine it sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's good. I can show more of the game here. We have it running, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sure. Let's go for
Yeah, you
it.
can go ahead and shut that down. It's right behind it.
I can just drag it here.
Cool. Yeah.
As part of my visit here, I'm also releasing actually another 1.5 hours worth of videos on YouTube. They're actually live already. Can you paste the links? Or,
Yeah.
We're pasting the links in the chat. So it's just 3 videos on YouTube. It's basically the continuation on what I did in, I think it was April. The couple of hours I posted for free there. It's just an update on the project, and I'm highlighting a couple of things that I think are really cool. For example, one of the things I'm highlighting there are this sun effect. It's not an ordinary sun. I mean, I put actually quite a bit of work in getting the sun to work out. For example, because when you're here, you kind of get this glow on the screen when you look at it, and the glow kind of fades out when you look away. And actually also, the sun now renders through a rock, but in-game it disappears. So I basically made a lens flare. You can see it's quite subtle, but there's a white lens flare there that fades out when it's behind objects. So I made my own lens flare and glare system, or whatever you want to call it. Something else I want to highlight is glow I have around light. I can't show it in this level, but I also have this similar kind of glare system around normal lamps, which I'm quite happy with. The ocean, it's not done yet, but I am highlighting a couple of things I've done, because as everyone knows, it's quite difficult to get translucent lit materials working properly. So I've gone through a lot of stuff to make that work. Actually, I can show you how insane it got. Right, it got really insane, and this is still not done. And also the thing, I've been talking to Nick Donaldson here while I'm at Epic, and then I kind of realized, oh, I kind of should have done this and this and this and this. So there's probably going to be a video series number 3 at some point with those things taken in mind. But yeah, the ocean got kind of out of hand, like a lot out of hand. Let me open the material for you. I mean, not all of this is used. I have to clean it up a bit, but this is just one test, and then that's what I have right now. But then earlier on, I also had...
This is a little complex.
Yeah, it's adding up a bit, and yeah. But you should see the other ones there a little bit worse. If I can find them back. It's hard to see with the text, it's kind of small. For example, I had this one. Yeah, I mean, I went through a lot of testing to get to a point where it's actually properly working. I have another one. And then I had this one as well. So, yeah. Yeah, and my blueprint is worse, actually, than this. So I'll get to my blueprint in a second. The point why I wanted to highlight the ocean was that I managed to get actual reflection and specular and all that working. There's apparently another way than I've done to get this to work. I just found out today while I'm here. But basically, I'm capturing a cube map of the entire level, but I'm doing it in a more efficient way, and I'm basically capturing 2 of them every 2 seconds, and I blend them together. But that's detailed in the video. So,
that is in the videos that you've got.
Yeah, I have that in the videos. Yeah.
Awesome.
So the videos are not really a tutorial, as in like how do I do it exactly. It's more about giving an overview, like this is how I am approaching things. So people can understand, like, this is the way of thinking. This is how we could potentially solve this or that.
Gotcha.
It's not step by step. It's more like the bigger scale, basically.
Great.
Yeah, and of course I had my previous videos as well. So people who haven't watched my previous set of videos, in those I explained how I made the islands, for example, how I build the rocks, what my workflow is like to build these kind of islands, because I can actually build this in like a day, 2 days time. I can build this entire island. Because of that workflow.
Yeah, so that island to put together was around 2 days?
Well, it's the first one, so this one took a little bit longer. But I mean, I can now repeat the process really fast.
Awesome.
Actually. So it's all about workflow. You know, like I also said in my videos, it's not just about making something that's pretty. It's about trying to run production. You know, so the workflow is really important to be able to run that kind of production.
Very cool.
But yeah, the blueprint, that's probably what people want to see the most. And what's most ridiculous. There's a lot of questions on Blueprint that came up earlier that people asked me, so I'll get to those as I go through. But I can basically show you one of the blueprints. Here we have the player blueprint, if it loads.
Oh, so this is the player?
This is the player itself, yeah. And we have a number of functions here, so see there's all kinds of functions here, so this is just part of it.
Oh, that's just is this the higher event graph? Or?
Yeah, this is the normal event graph, and then we have all kinds of functions with additional things in there.
Gotcha.
Step by step, see? So I have a bit of a mix. I don't put everything in functions. I don't put everything here, kind of in between.
Right.
I kind of like seeing everything here in like one big view, you know, because I could have just taken this and put it in a function. I could have put that in a function and so on. But I'm very visual, and I think if you have visual scripting, it should be visual. It's visual scripting, right? So I kind of want to be able to have like this overview of like, this is all the stuff I've made.
Yeah, and this way you can kind of look at your entire graph, especially when you're debugging, and kind of see if there's anything that's fallen off in the wrong spot without having to go into these sub-menus of functions.
Absolutely, and the debugging works a lot better basically if it's in the event graph. Yeah. If you're in a function, there's currently still some issues with debugging, with turning this one on, because you can't see the values of some of the things, and that really makes it difficult to properly debug it,
without dumping it to a console or a print screen, So
I tend to work a lot and just putting it in the main view. And I mean, this is just how it continues. So this is the player controller. That's opening up right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So in the player control, I put all the actual controls.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is a scroll wheel. Radio mode is no longer used. Actually, no longer is that either. Sprint, mouse look, sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So moving up.
And if you
Jump.
were to get to a point where you wanted to, put these down into functions, you could, just copy and paste them into the function section.
Most of them, yes. Of
yeah.
course, functions do have some limitations.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, you can't put a delay. There's no delay here. But
Right.
if it has a delay, you wouldn't be able to put it in a function.
Correct.
And a timeline wouldn't fit in either.
Mm.
So there are some limitations there, and that prevents some of this from going in a function. But in general, yes,
Yeah.
majority.
What's also cool, you can see like your associations between specific blocks. You've got some of these blue, lookups over here. They're hopping across there. So
Absolutely.
another nice way to do it this way. Cool.
Yeah, some of it could have been a little bit cleaner, but in general, it works. Yeah. Of course, I have my sky, which is probably the biggest one.
Yeah, I was about to ask which one is the most extensive.
But it's just a lot of copy pasting. It's not really
Yeah.
complicated. It's just copy pasting.
Once you get one knocked down, you can just kind of.
Yeah.
And for people looking for the YouTube videos, you can just go to youtube.com/Hourences, which is HOURENCES.
Yeah, and I can link that real quick.
That'll
too.
redirect to the right place. I know we've pasted the link in the chat stream, but
Yeah.
once this goes up on YouTube.
Right, but what people are probably interested in, like, this is probably rather intimidating to look at, I'm guessing.
Maybe a little.
Yeah, so how do you manage that? Well, of course, it grows step by step as well, so I don't instantly end up with this. But the way I've managed it right now is I have a lot of multiple subscripts. So, for example, this is the player itself, that's normal. But then there's the PDA, so the pocket computer the player is holding, right? I can very briefly show you in game, actually, because people might not realize how it works. So let's just play for 1 second. Right, so you're holding this pocket computer on the bottom left.
Oh, nice.
And that tracks all kinds of stuff like the health, obviously, the body temperature, the world temperature, how much you have to eat, a lot of numbers. It also tracks messages. It also transforms. So if you look at like text here, this is not entirely done yet, but if you look at text, it reads the text. So
It
it's like
updates
this,
down there.
which is, by the way, inspired by Unreal 1, the universal translator. Right? But the point is, I have this thing there that does all kinds of stuff. If I have something like that, I tend to make a new blueprint that's then in turn attached to the player, because otherwise it really stacks up. When I started building this, I tried to build everything in the player. So in the very beginning, when I started with this, the controls, everything, every single thing, the pocket computer, the controls, the camera, everything was in the player. And you really hit problems at some point, I can say. So if you want to go to this size, you really need to be splitting it up.
Now, with that PDA, did you just make it a component of the player himself as he's walking around? Like it's in the component section whenever you're building out who he is, or are you like instantiating it and sticking it on? Or?
Somewhat, yeah.
Okay, cool.
There is a child actor component thing, I believe now, so you can actually add an actor as a child as a component
Okay,
in
yeah.
there. But I don't use that because that was added quite recently, and I already had my system by then.
Yeah,
So I'm doing it more manually, which is totally fine as well.
gotcha.
I just have this blueprint here. This is just a normal blueprint. This is the PDA. See?
Mm-hmm.
So I have an actual blueprint, which
Yeah.
is just the thing you're holding,
Yeah,
which has, and this might not be ideal, so don't take this as a perfect example, but it tends to have a lot of components.
yeah.
in
Those
there.
are all your text.
Those
pieces.
are all the different texts and
Cool.
icons and all that, yeah. But they all have, actually, while we're at it, I set all of them to use parents bounds, for example, and that kind of speeds it up
Okay.
here and there.
Yeah, I mean, logically
I
that
guess.
makes sense to me because then you
Yeah.
could call those individual texts and tell them what to do, right? Like
Yes,
just
that's what I did. But the point is, I could have never added this to the player because that would have really been too much. And if you look at the graph, there is quite a lot here
Right.
also. I could have never gotten that into the player. There is an actual size limit to blueprints, which is not that well communicated right now. It's kind of difficult to find out what the limit is, but
Yeah.
there is a real limit to it. So you're forced to split it up, and it's better as well because if you work in a team, it's much better to do it like this because one guy can work on this and the other person
Right.
can work on this, and
it's more object-oriented approach as opposed to
absolutely,
yeah.
And if something does fail, like the whole thing goes corrupt or it crashes or so, then
You just lose the PDA.
yeah, at
or the
least
player.
you lose
Yeah.
one part, yeah, not the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's definitely the way to go. And yeah, we have a lot more of those blueprints. I mean, I can go on for a few hours, really. the things we have.
Yeah, let's see. What are the ones you got on here?
This is the stats. So this is what controls the body temperature, how you experience
cool.
the world, how hungry you are, how thirsty you are, all the calculations that are related to checking all that stuff.
Yes, this is your full, basically your player's information is all stored in here.
In a completely separate blueprint.
Gotcha.
And likewise, there is also a voice system, which is what controls the voices you are saying.
Okay.
Sorry, I switched to the wrong window.
Oh, yeah. And the player controls all these individual things, like
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So I set it up like that. And the player, when he spawns, I can show you that because that's actually the critical to this. Where the player spawns, let's begin play somewhere. Start play here. See, so on begin play, I simply do spawn actor PDA.
Mm-hmm.
And then in this case, I attach it to the player because I do attach actor, so attach the PDA actor to the component of this actor, so to the component of the player, and I attach it to the camera attachment parent.
Is that essentially a transform?
That's basically a hand position with a key that follows the camera, right? So that's how I do it. And with the other ones, these other two, I just spawn them anywhere. I don't even attach them because the stat system doesn't have to get attached.
Yeah, it can just
has to
exist somewhere.
right? So that's how I split it up.
Cool. Yeah, it's very traditional programming approach. Really cool.
So that works, but all of this is trial and error. But in any case, one thing that we've been doing, I mean, this is what people also ask, like, how much are you doing in C++? How much blueprint is there? Well, as you can see, there's still a huge amount of blueprint, right? But it's less blueprint than it used to be. We are moving some of this to C++ lately. So for example, a very clear example of that is the inventory. This is the inventory, basically. This is what controls items getting added to an array, being in the player's inventory, switching items, that kind of stuff. This is a lot smaller than it used to be. We used to have these functions and macros here, and then the function contains a huge network of stuff to add an item to an array.
Gotcha.
What we have now is C++. We have this. That's C++.
That function is called and it does everything.
It
for
simply
you.
says take this thing and go
add
dump it in the inventory and we're done, right? So we're automating part of it quite well. I was going to say something now. And that's kind of the approach we take actually in general. So we're keeping it very blueprint focused, but we're shifting specific items, specific features to C++.
Is it mostly because it's very heavy and harder to maintain in blueprints to go to C++, or is it for performance reasons?
It's not really for performance. Of course, there are cases where, sure, if you overdo it, you're going to hit a real problem,
But it's the same with C++ too,
absolutely,
right? Yeah.
So it's usually not for performance. And I can tell you that I've profiled this. I mean, I've gone through all the profiling. And the profiling of blueprints is, by the way, something I'm covering in the videos. So if you're wondering about how you should, like how heavy is this, how much performance does it really take, in the videos I'm covering how you can check that.
That's awesome.
So I also have
Very
that.
cool.
But in any case, I went through all of this. I mean, I checked, I profiled all of my own stuff. And this is not heavy. None of all the stuff here is actually heavy. This is totally fine.
That's great.
So you can actually build a game like this, do all of this kind of stuff in just Blueprint, and the whole thing still works. There are, of course, some things you should avoid. I mean, again, there's some limits here and there, but in general, this works. There is no reason why I should now be converting this to something else.
Right,
So it's really nice from Unreal that you can get to this level and it still works absolutely fine.
Definitely, yeah. Blueprints are fantastic. I mean, it's you talk about working with a team too. It lets non-coders be able to come in and help troubleshoot what might be happening, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so it's been the main reason is, of course, just organization, right? And we had several other things, like the voice system is a very good example of that. I deleted it. But this is not that big right now compared to the other ones, right? And this one here is mostly just copy-pasting. Is it this? No. Is it that? Is it that? And so on.
Right.
But what we used to have here, we tried to do this whole thing in just C++, in just blueprints. So we had this huge network of blueprints. And it was very, very difficult to get into it, to understand what was going on if you didn't write it yourself. And it was also very, very difficult to fix it. There were all kinds of bugs, and then you had no idea where to look anymore. I mean, the whole thing got very much so out of hand. It was so heavy that when you right-clicked somewhere, it would take 2 seconds or so for the menu to pop up. You know, you're starting hitting issues.
Yeah.
And that's the main reason why we're moving some of the heavy stuff to C++. More bug-free, lighter, I mean, easier to work with, and so on.
Yeah, it's performance in the editor probably speeds up quite a bit too. Cool.
And one big thing we've done here is, and this is a very simple thing, I mean, but we simply moved all the variables to C++. All the main variables are not made in the editor here by clicking variable. They're actually made in C++.
Gotcha.
And I don't think a lot of other people are doing this. See these things? That's C++ variables.
Okay, cool.
That's
So
yeah.
are they on that actor, or are they more of like a global?
And they're actually global. Some
Okay.
of them are on the actor, of course.
Gotcha.
But we have these events and we have these variables that are actually just globally available.
Gotcha.
Therefore, we're not casting anywhere. We have very little casting going on.
Oh, that's great.
Right? So if I'm in the level, let's say I'm in the level blueprint, and I'm doing some kind of puzzle or whatever I'm doing something, right? And I want to figure out, like, how warm is the player? What's the body temperature of the player? Right? For whatever reason, I need to know that. Then normally what you would have to do is you would have to get the player pawn,
And typecast out. Yeah.
then you need to cast it, otherwise the engine doesn't understand it's that specific one. So then I would do a Solus player, and then you would be able to access it. But now we have 3 blocks here, 3 nodes, three whatever you call it, right?
Right.
Plus you have to execute it. You first have to execute this one. And also it's not just the fact that you have more things going on, that it just grows the graph. It's also about having a reference. You have a direct reference from this script to this blueprint. Because this makes a reference to that asset. So you get more references from this point to that point.
Gotcha.
And that's slower. We don't
Yeah.
know for sure, but it appears to be slower. It appears to lead to some editor slowdowns or compile slowdowns or those kind of things. Circular bugs, references. So what we've done now is we just put them in globally available C++ variables, and we can just do player temperature or so. See, and you can do get the
That's
temperature,
awesome.
and you just instantly have the temperature. And we do the same with events. I can just say the voice should stop, and then I will call stop on the voice.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And that executes an event here that will stop the voice.
Instead of having, yeah.
So I
awesome.
don't use custom events actually for a lot of these kind of things. I really do the event in actual C++. And that's speeding it up as well. This goes much easier to work with just this one than having to do stuff here.
No, I dig that. That's really, really interesting approach at that.
And then people ask, how much can you do in Blueprint? Well, you can do this much, clearly. But someone asked, can you build Counter-Strike? No, I don't think you can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it really depends on the game, I would say. This is a single-player game. There are no enemies. It's kind of straightforward, right?
Yeah.
So yes, you can do that. You can get quite far with just doing that. But there's a difference between doing what I'm doing and making an MMORPG. It's not going to work without code. That's basically it.
Right.
And of course, if you want to do a simple game, you can do simple games in pure Blueprint. But if you really want to get the most out of it and make it really good, you're going to need C++ one way or another.
You'll end up with a hybrid solution that you
Yeah.
want to handle things both for, like you say, for workflow,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
for performance, for workflow, and just for the game itself, and just for logically where to collect some of this information.
Absolutely, because it grows out of hand, as you can see already as it is. And this is with C++ underneath.
Yeah.
Let alone, if I do everything in Blueprint. And also stuff like a safe game system. It's doable in Blueprint, but you really, for a complicated game, that's just asking for issues.
Yeah, serialization.
AI as well, same thing. You could probably pull off AI in Blueprints, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to lead to problems, yeah.
Gotcha.
Right. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the Blueprints. Do we have any questions that the community asked?
Yeah, most of the ones that have come through the stream so far are ones we've either touched or dupes over here. Let me grab this from you
Yep.
real quick. Good God. Right over here. Yeah, guys, if y'all have any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat and just, put the question prefix to it. Let's see if we can get them answered on here.
Yeah, we've already covered off on a good number of questions that have been asked in the forums here. So here's one from Head Clot, who we know very well in the community. So what advice would you give to those making their first games right now with Unreal Engine 4?
Okay. I would probably give advice that goes for pretty much anything, like more general advice, is to take it into steps. Don't try to make a huge game right away. Make a game that's manageable. If you're going to make something that's too big or too complicated, you're just going to get stuck for months and months on end, and you're not really going to get anywhere, and you're probably going to lose your motivation because you don't really get any success. You're not going to get stuck. So I would really take it in steps. You should try to build something that you can do in like a month time maybe, or like 2 weeks or so, and that's just challenging enough, but not too challenging. And if that works out, then you start over with a completely different kind of game, and you do it again. but you make it a little bit harder, and you take it, you spend a bit more time on it.
Yeah.
That's basically how I started making levels as well. You try to
Right.
build a small level, and then you're like, this was kind of cool. Let's build a slightly bigger, more complex level. And you basically go through the process again and again and again and again.
Yeah. So
Very, very fast, iterative.
stay disciplined with scope
Yeah,
and focus.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And repeating the process. I
Right.
think that's very important, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, these are some of the other ones we had from here. Do you know when Solus might become available?
Well, I'm hoping 2015, for sure. Like said, we would like to have 2 hours playable in like first few months of 2015, and you never know, maybe we put it on Steam Early Access or something like that. So maybe it already
cool.
becomes available then, but
Yeah.
it really depends on like what the game looks like, right?
Gotcha. This one was kind of answered before. Will there be more training based off of Solus? That's essentially what.
I'm trying, but
Yeah.
it's time must allow it, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely check out the 3 videos that were released today.
Yeah.
I've been playing with the idea maybe at one point or another I can just put out a whole of Solus, but I'm not sure. Because that has some various implications both with licenses and with people maybe using the art content, and
Yeah.
there are some implications, but it's something I'm playing with, so.
Cool. Cool. And then we got a couple up here.
Any plans to do a UT map or mod, maybe? It depends how it goes. I
We were talking about
Yeah.
this the other day about how we would have loved to have more time to hop in and start modding now as they're working. But yeah.
mean, of course, I started my whole career with Arnold Tournament, so I would love to just go back to Arnold Tournament and make more levels, but at the same time, I have like a million other things to do. I work like 80 hours a week,
Yeah.
every week for the whole year, so it kind of has to fit in somewhere.
Yeah.
But absolutely otherwise, yeah.
Cool.
What do
Yeah.
you think is the most exciting feature?
Yeah.
Well, Blueprint, clearly. That's
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah, I know. I remember when I first heard about it myself, I was just like, okay, this is huge. This is going to be great.
Absolutely, yeah.
And kind of piggybacking on that, if you could add something to the blueprints, I mean, what would you do?
This goes in general for the whole engine. I think if someone else somewhere asked, like, what would you want to change to the engine or so, but what I usually want to change are really small things.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want like a grass system. I don't want like a mountain system or all kinds of weird systems or so. I mean, I just kind of want the very core of the engine to work 100%
Yeah.
properly, right? Because that's what you're
Yeah.
going to be spending most of your time on. Like, it would be really nice, for example, to have like volumetric light, like fog or something. That would be really cool. But at the end of the day, you're going to be using that like once a month. And the rest, 99.9% of the month, you're going to be spending in like just the normal interface, the normal features.
Right.
So my wish list is more focused on very small, very focused little things.
Cool.
For example, being able to easily cut lines in Blueprint, or so like easily disconnect large amounts of
Get
things.
your knife and
Yeah,
just-
or like the material editor where you have like a multiply block that can
Yeah.
accept multiple inputs
Oh.
on the same multiply block. It's very small stuff like that. It's more important, I think, than big systems.
Cool.
So
Yeah. That makes sense. Let's see if we've got any more up in here from the actual stream here. Oh, great. Kind of touched on that. Let's see.
I have a quick question while Chance is
Yeah.
looking through stuff. You were recently able to confirm that you're working on the latest Alone in the Dark game.
that also, yeah.
So are you able to say like what types of things you've worked on for that project, or describe your contribution at all?
Yeah, I can do vaguely somewhat. Yeah,
Yeah.
I started in late January, I think, this year, working on that. So it's an Unreal Engine 4 game. And basically, I did several of the initial level designs and like more like the direction, like this is how we should approach the levels and what kind of features there should be in the levels. And I built a lot of the first few assets. So basically, I built a small area, and I kind of set out, this is the workflow to build the environment in, and this is kind of the style, and this is kind of the way we're going to be doing this. And then other people took over from there, basically.
Cool.
And then, of course, I kept on building things and looking at things and improving things, tech art.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was one really cool thing. I'm very happy with what I did. It's also in the videos. I found I kind of faked volumetric lighting
Okay.
in a very, very simple way. That's the kind of stuff I do as well, like this tech art, complicated things. So I also put it in Solus now, and it's also in the videos.
Nice.
It kind of feels like the light actually illuminates like the fog around it. It's really cool.
We like tricks.
Yeah, it's just one sprite, and you get that effect.
Sweet. Yeah, so Alone in the Dark is also Unreal Engine 4. It's being published by Atari. they were actually just talking about using the engine in an article that I saw today. Do you know how many people are working on that? Like how big the dev team is on that game?
I don't have exact numbers. I would
Don't know.
say 25, 30,
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Small to medium. Cool.
Yep.
Good deal. Any good questions popping up over
Yeah,
there,
so
Chance?
far.
Yeah.
What are your PC specs? I actually wanted to know this. What do you operate on?
God, what was it? That's a good one. I don't upgrade that often because it takes a lot of time actually to like. I build it myself then, and it takes a lot of time to install it and so on. So I kind of just buy the best thing I can buy, and then it just stays there for a couple of years. So I bought it last year. So it's getting a little bit older now, but it's still like a quad-core 4 gigahertz, I believe, with a GeForce 780.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I
With
do.
32 gig RAM
Oh, okay.
and
so
3 terabyte in RAID 1 for
Yeah.
protection measures.
yeah, definitely.
And I built the inside quite properly. Like everything is case fans, really big, slow case fans. I can just easily replace a case fan. I have double SSD, so I can switch between the two in case
Awesome.
one of the two breaks. Everything
Yeah.
is like built for redundancy. So.
Cool. I'm exactly the same way.
And I have a resolution, two 27-inch screens, I think,
Oh,
with
so
a combined resolution of 5,130 or something wide.
You've got some real estate.
Yeah, so it works. But, I mean, I want more screens and I want bigger screens, but the computer gets too slow actually, with too much resolution. So I'm stuck.
Oh, also we've got here specs of the demo machine that we've got here. They're probably very similar to yours as we looked earlier.
This one is slower.
Oh, yeah, this one's actually
Yeah.
slower
Yeah.
than this. so-
Yeah.
Remember, this is like 2 gigahertz quad.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah, this is actually quite slow.
Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, let's see what we got here. Oh, Oculus support in Solus?
Absolutely, I am really trying. Actually, I just got an email. My Oculus dev,
Awesome.
the dev kit 2 is underway, so I should have it when I'm back in
Oh, great.
Sweden.
Oh, man. Oh, you'll be in Sweden by then? Oh.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, well, it was shipped.
Yeah.
Shipped, I think today or yesterday. From I
Gotcha.
think they sent it from England in Europe or
Yeah.
something. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
so I should have it soon.
Cool.
But it works really well in Oculus with the DevKit 1. I mean, you can really like see the size of these giant planets moving around, and when you stand in a cave and you look up, you see this weight of the cave
Yeah.
really press down on you. It really feels like this massive structure above you, and it's just really cool.
Yeah, that's the first time I started doing Oculus development. It's the sense of scale is the first thing that kicks out. You're like, whoa, the thing is big. You know, it really translates well.
Absolutely.
So-
It's just I have to get the performance to work. That's a really, really, really tricky question.
Yeah,
It's really demanding graphically. So
yeah, because what is it like 1080p basically in both
yeah,
times two?
Yeah, times 2, and
Yeah.
yes,
Cool.
that will be something.
You gonna push anything to our marketplace?
Maybe at some point in time again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Let's see. Oh yeah, just any quick advice for people trying to break in and get started at this point, other than going and watching your tutorials and getting moving,
Well,
right?
I can
Building
say
something.
I can say a lot of that. I mean, I also work for a school in Stockholm, so it's also pretty much half the time I spend on doing exactly that kind of stuff. You know,
okay.
explaining how do you get into the industry and helping people get there. I've been doing that since 2010. It goes really well. We just had a class graduate, and we had 33 students, I think, graduated just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And out of those 33, 80% has a job
Oh, wow.
directly from their internship, directly after the education. So
That's-
we got
that's
80% in job right after. So that's nice.
Yeah,
It's a very good placement rate.
that's
Absolutely.
Yeah.
pretty high, especially that quick.
That's good, yeah. So I'm happy, and I mean it's kind of my job to do the internship follow-up and the whole thing. So I'm happy with that.
Cool.
But I mean, it's a complex question. It's kind of hard to say you should do this and you'll be fine. It's not really the case. It kind of depends on where you're at, you know, what your background is, location, context. There's so many factors involved.
Definitely.
So in general, I would say just keep going. Don't give up. It took me 3-4 years properly to really get to a good point, you know, to really start off my career properly.
I know for us, number one thing we say is just, build something, make something cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
That matters more than anything on paper,
Totally.
Absolutely.
you know.
Just building things.
Yeah, make a game. Make a game. Put something out. That's whenever we were at other companies I've been at hiring software developers, it's like, well, what have you actually created? Have you finished something?
Yeah.
You know, finish a project? And like,
Absolutely.
yeah, you have. It's like, great. Let's see what you got.
Just
So
keep on building. That's what
Yeah.
I did as well. That's
Cool.
what pretty much everyone did in the industry. Everyone here at Epic as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, they just keep
Yeah.
on building things, and that's it.
keep tinkering.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see if we got anything else up here.
Someone asked if I mind doing a tutorial the way I create the environment art. The rock piece. I actually put up a video as well just now on how I made the rocks in 3D Studio Max. A little bit more in detail than the previous one I did in April. So there's that. It might still need more detail, I mean, but it's more step by step than the previous one. So it might give you a bit more information.
This one's a pretty good one here. I know a lot of distributed teams work a lot of different ways, but like advice on best approach to working with a distributed team. I know you're kind of on 2 distributed teams right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's see how we go about that.
Maybe you can tackle it from like the communication side of things, to like the tools you guys use
Yeah.
to keep everything on
Yeah,
track.
because I'm used to like using Git or Perforce, something like that, where we check in and we just hop on Skype and live that way.
Of course, I think having Perforce or SVN, I'd rather have SVN, or but having one of those is absolutely critical. There's no way you can do it otherwise.
Yeah.
So on
Must have version control.
Yeah, and every project I've worked on has always been Perforce or SVN. But work-wise, you have, of course, streaming levels in the editor.
Yeah.
That works a lot. That really helps. For example, on Alone in the Dark, we have like multiple streaming levels. There are multiple like geo layers, we call them. And like person A works on the houses in like the start of the level. Person B works on like the mine shafter, so at the end of the level. And they're actually 2 different levels, and they get merged together by the editor. So
Cool.
therefore, we can have this person doing this person doing that, and then maybe someone else is doing like a game. There's a game layer on top with all the spawn points and the scripting.
Right.
So I think that's the best
exactly
way
how I
forward,
used to handle it in UE3.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
And also because the packages, there are no packages anymore in Unreal Engine 4, that really makes it easier.
Yeah. So you don't have to version control your packages as well as
and you don't have this problem like this person is working on this package which happens to contain like 4,000 materials, and therefore I can't edit any of the 4,000 materials. That really helps you.
Right. Yeah. We've got a Abatron game, Trello, Skype, and Perforce. That's kind of my default setup. So
Yeah.
that's what I use. Cool. I had a question. This is your first time in the States.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about America so far?
Right, let's see. Actually, what the 2 things that I quite like are just the cars. I like that it's just, you can just drive everywhere. I mean, I come from Belgium originally, that's where I grew up, and we have a lot of cars as well, actually, compared to other countries. Like, I'm in Sweden now, there's not that many cars in Sweden, I would say, like, relatively to what I'm used to. So I kind of like this environment here where everyone has cars. I mean, it's probably not very environmental friendly, but it's nice to just finally be able to just go from here, just drive to your work, don't have to take buses, trains, walk everywhere, it takes ages.
Yeah, and you can make the decision like, oh, I want to stop and get something to eat.
Yeah,
so you can go do that.
that kind of feel, that kind of way of working, that's really, I've
Yeah.
never had it in a game company. In
Yeah.
Europe, in your in-games company, like I said, this is the first company I've ever been at that has a parking lot. That says something
It's
about
so
Europe.
bizarre to me. I
So-
don't think we have to, by code, we have to have parking lots here.
Okay.
Yeah, a specific amount. So it's crazy.
Yeah, that's really weird. And also the people are really open and friendly.
Yeah.
That's nice, yeah.
Cool.
It's just relaxing. I mean, you can just talk to everyone, and it's English as well.
Yeah.
That's nice, yeah. It's relaxing.
Cool. We've got how did Blueprint debugging help when you're developing Solus? I think just in general debugging. I mean, you run into a snag,
Right.
hop in there and
I do it all the time. I have 2 screens, of course. I mean, I put this, the Blueprint on one screen, and I play on the other, and I really just check everything it does. Right. I mean, if we very briefly switch back to the screen. For example, here, the stat system, that's something where you want to do this all the time, for example, because you have so many variables and so many numbers. I mean, you really want to see like this, that, and so on. So, all of this is like watching variables set, see this is watching, like stop watching, see this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, see everything. So when I'm playing, I can basically see for the whole thing, this is exactly this much, this is exactly that much. Without that, I would have never been able to actually make this.
Can you kick this live? Will it
Sure,
show?
I can play. I can press compile, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Will take some time.
There we go.
Right, so when I then switch back. And like if you look at the thirst, or maybe I can even look at one of the other ones, or let's just take thirst. See, I can see exactly for everything, and I would have never been able to get these kind of calculations going, see. And while we're at the calculations, I got it in a really simple way, because there's a lot of variables to, for example, thirst. It's like how cold are you? Because if you're very warm, you're going to use more water, right?
Right.
How fast are you running? In other words, how much are you exercising and moving? This again, body temperature. This is just general speed. That's just for speeding up the game. This is how thirsty you are. If you're very thirsty, you're going to feel even more thirsty. So it amplifies basically.
Because of your...
Yeah. This is if you're walking uphill. Therefore, you probably use more water. I mean, it's not very scientifically correct, but it kind of works.
It's games.
Yeah. And the smaller things. And then I just do map range. So I convert them to a suitable range. I clamp them usually to ensure they don't go out of a certain range. And I just multiply the whole thing together. That's it. And then I get a number that gets added together to the thirst. Thirst plus X becomes new thirst.
Okay, cool.
That's it. So I have this very simple calculation because I had a lot of people work on this system and it led to all kinds of really weird stuff. So I just took it over myself and I did it really, really simple. It's very important, I think, in Blueprint, it quickly gets out of hand, that you do it in a way that's really simple and efficient, that anyone can look at it and kind of understand it. It's just one multiply and it just takes these different arms. That's it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it gets really quickly out of hand and it gets too complicated. So I really focus on trying to find these ways of just getting, a very simple, focused thing out of it. That seems to be what most people have issues with, from my experience.
Gotcha.
Getting that working. And actually, there was one question we didn't cover. Someone asked, can you get the computer time in Blueprint? So someone asked,
Oh yeah, someone did ask that.
yeah, can you get, can you tie the weather or the time of day in Solus to the time that's in the real world? Yeah, you can. And that's also a perfect example of why you kind of need C++. See, we have this thing here. We made this ourselves. Right? So I can't do this while playing. Hold on. I don't think you can do this by default, if I'm right. But with a bit of C++, you can easily add it. Where was it? Like we added this. Real world get current OS time. See?
So that grabs from the machine that it's
and
working
that actually
on.
gets you exactly everything from the machine. I can also calculate the difference in time between time X and time Y. Right? So yes, I can do that. I could actually tie the sky in Solus to the actual time.
Gotcha.
But this also shows why you need C++. It's not just about organizing it and all that and doing complex stuff in C++. You're also going to hit these kind of small little things like, it's a simple issue and you can solve this in like 15 minutes time in C++.
Instead of trying to find a way
Right.
to... Yeah.
So having a programmer around is never a bad idea, I think.
Yeah.
At one point or another, you're going to need that kind of help, yeah. We have a lot of these things. We probably have like 40, 50 little changes, like really small stuff, but it just helps with development. So, and that's all been done by Rama, by the way. And he'll probably release most of that at some point,
Oh, I'm sure.
knowing him. So, and he's totally free to do so.
Cool.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, Rama.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Rama. Indeed.
Yeah, was he in the chat? I haven't seen him. I was wondering
He
if he
did
was on the
email
chat.
right before.
Oh,
He said
gotcha.
to tell everyone hello.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Anything more?
Let's roll one more. I'm not really caught up over here.
Okay. I think we've covered
Yeah.
Yep.
a lot of what's being asked right now already.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, seems like it.
All right, great.
Relevant stuff. So
So yeah, I'll just repeat the URL one more time. If you want to go grab the new training videos from Hourences, go to youtube.com / I know, YouTube, youtube.com/Hourences, which is HOURENCES. That'll redirect you to the right place, and you can just grab everything for free. And until next time, we will await more training content as you're able to put it out, because we know you have nothing going on these days.
Yeah.
Just
No.
making a few games, teaching a few courses.
Yeah, it's only 80 hours a week, so I'm sure I can find 30 or 40 more hours.
yeah, I think there's 24 in a day, right? Something like
Yeah, I
that.
would like to become a vampire.
Yeah,
It's
Oh, yeah.
really good for time.
Yeah.
You don't sleep anymore,
Yeah,
it's much
yeah,
better. So.
That's true.
Cool.
That's great.
Thank you so much for joining us and
Thank
making
you.
the trip across the pond.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been awesome having you here.
Yeah, it's been
And
great.
everybody, come back next Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be here. Actually, Chance and I will be at EGX, so it's a surprise. Your host for next week will be a total surprise.
Oh, actually, are we at EGX next week or is that 2
is it-
weeks?
I got my time mixed up. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
next week we're here.
Yeah, next
and
week we're here.
The following week we're
yeah,
gone.
Yeah.
Vanishing. So,
Yeah,
okay,
just
we'll be here
disappear.
next Thursday, 2 p.m. Join us
Cool.
then.
Okay.
Take care,
Thanks.
everyone.